Episode 48 of Wasteland Weaponistics, the Gatling Gun. The Gatling Gun has only ever appeared in Fallout 76 at the time of making this video. The Gatling Gun is the much older father of the more prevalent minigun that has appeared in, well, basically every Fallout game. Now, the original Gatling Gun was designed by Dr. Richard Jordan Gatling. He had this to say about why he invented the Gatling Gun. It occurred to me that if I could invent a machine, a gun, which could by its rapidity of fire enable one man to do as much battle duty as 100, that it would, to a large extent, supersede the necessity of large armies, and subsequently exposure to battle and disease be greatly diminished. As the good doctor says, the Gatling gun was made for medicinal purposes. Now, the Gatling gun saw its claim to fame during the U.S. Civil War, where it was used by both sides, but mainly the Union. Confederates were able to capture a few, but never really made use of the Gatling gun. And outside of the U.S., Gatling guns were used by everyone from the British to the Peruvians. Hand-cranked Gatling guns were used from the 1860s all the way up to the early 1900s, being chambered in all types of different rounds, from 45-70 to .303 British and 30-06. The Gatling gun is a well-tested and proven design. Larger Gatling-style weapons like the Hotchkiss revolving cannon were used all the way into the 1930s. While the Hotchkiss revolving cannon doesn't exactly operate like the Gatling, it is definitely inspired by its design. The multi-barreled design of the Gatling shows no signs of dying out anytime soon, with modern models ranging from the tiny Tippmann 9mm Gatling that takes Glock magazines to the 30mm Burt cannon of the A-10 Warthog. Random fact, Mexico even had a prototype tank that used the Hotchkiss revolving cannon as its main weapon. Now let's talk about Fallout 76's Gatling gun. This Gatling gun is modeled after the Colt 1874 model of Gatling. We know this is a Colt manufactured gun, as whoever modeled the weapon for the game didn't even bother coming up with a fake nameplate. I mean, it's 99% identical to an actual one. This plate has tons of information on it, like saying Gatling battery gun, with a bunch of patent dates, as well as made by Colt firearms. However, there is one very large change when it comes to the in-game version compared to the real-life one. And that is, it isn't mounted to a large horse-drawn carriage, but instead it's fired from the hip. How one would achieve this, I don't know, as the Gatling gun weighs almost 200 pounds. In comparison, an M240 weighs about 25, so it's like carrying 8 M240s at once. You're probably thinking this has to be used with power armor in some way. That would make it feasible. And I can't say if it was meant to be used or not. Let's go with the assumption that these old Gatling guns were modified to be used with power armor. And there is some clues that tell us that this is true, as these guns do not fire 45-70 or any other 1800 style round, but are converted to fire the 5mm round. This is the same round that the miniguns of the Fallout universe fire. This could mean that a militarized force like the Brotherhood of Steel converted these weapons for use against Scorchbeast, as one of the mod attachments for the Gatling gun here is an anti-aircraft sight. And a Gatling gun can be rewarded to the player at the end of the vanilla Brotherhood questline, Defiance Has Fallen. The plan for the Gatling gun can also be acquired from a Brotherhood-aligned vendor bot, Phoenix, who's in the Watoga shopping center. These two signs point to that the Brotherhood of Steel was the ones to modify these Gatling guns, probably to supplant their miniguns. Now, if you don't know the lore of the original Appalachian Brotherhood, they aren't like other post-war Brotherhood chapters. They're made up of a combination of mostly U.S. Army Rangers, as well as a small amount of Marines. And the original Appalachian Brotherhood kind of barely followed the teachings of the West Coast. They didn't really call themselves Knights. They kind of thought it was dumb. Instead, they kind of acted more as a brotherhood in name only. But there's one thing that kind of throws a wrench in this idea. What if these 5mm Gatling guns were used by an older faction, the US military themselves? These Gatling guns can be found inside of government aid supply drops. The Fallout military in the 2070s was most likely still using these hand-cranked Gatling guns over 200 years later. I guess if it ain't broke, don't fix it, but I think there's a time and a place to let the old girls rest a bit. Outside of the Vanilla Brotherhood, there is a single other faction that uses these Gatling guns. They were added post Wastelanders expansion. That is the Mothman Cultist. Yep, cultists have Gatling guns for some reason. Their Wraith Wings are strong enough to wield these weapons without power armor, acting as the heavies of the faction. Why Bethesda chose to give the Mothman Cultist Gatling guns, I don't know. But to the ungeared higher level players, these Mothman Cultists can actually be a real threat, as Gatling guns in this game do a lot of damage to make up for their slow rate of fire. Now, attachments for the Gatling gun. I did mention that there was the anti-aircraft sight already. But there are several other mod attachments for the Gatling, like a larger drum magazine modeled after the Broadwell drum. There's also the speedy receiver, increasing the rate of fire, longer barrels, which don't actually make the barrels any longer, just kind of add this weird fancy look to them. There's the comfort grip, and lastly, a bayonet. Yes, you heard me, a bayonet. Imperial Japan would be very proud to hear that. Now, there is one unique Gatling at the time of making this video, and that is Resolute Veteran. Resolute Veteran was a survival reward weapon, so it's no longer acquirable except through trades. Resolute Veteran features the Suppressor's effect, reducing the target's damage dealt to the player, the Hitman's effect, giving you more damage when aiming down sight, and Steadfast, which reduces the damage when aiming down sight as well. Lastly, while not canon, there is this really cool skin known as the Appalachian Thunderpipe, which is a really neat name, and I really like that name. This makes the Gatling gun look, to me at least, makes it look more like the French mitrailleuse, which is a gun that predates the Gatling and is similar in style, but not the same, as it is crank operated. However, the barrels do not rotate, and it works more as a volley fire gun rather than a Gatling gun. And that will be all for the old Gatling gun in the Fallout series. It's a strange addition to Fallout 76, but a great choice for the ammo conscious. Alright, see everybody next time. Subscribe to this channel for more Fallout weapon lore, as well as my main channel, Trooper Fofo, for all types of gaming videos and novel reviews. Alright, see everybody later. Bye.